Growing papaya from seeds. So these seeds I took out, I cut up a papaya, I took all the seeds out, I put in a container, and I put them in the fridge and I let them dry out. Normally I would take the little jelly skin off. You can't really see it right now because they're dried out, but you don't have to, but if you want to, they'll germinate faster. So I'm doing an experiment with these right now. This guy over here, I've been growing him for probably about a year now. He's really healthy. He had some white powdery mold a few months ago, but it's kind of resolved now. I cut all the leaves off and then the leaves grew back and they still had powdery mold, but I noticed since the season changed, it doesn't have any, so they look really good right now. There's a lot of new growth coming up from the middle. As you can see, look at the little tiny, the leaves come up from the middle, and you see, you can see the new growth inside there. I love it. So, I'm doing an experiment right now. I have some that I planted inside the same pot, just to see if they would come up. I have some planted over here in this failed avocado seed pot. They haven't come up yet, because it's only been a few days. Really hot today. It's probably in the upper 80s. It usually doesn't get below, the lowest we ever got maybe 1 or 2 nights a year is 38, 39, and that's pushing it. And we don't really even get that cold all the time. I'm here in Kissimmee, Florida, so Central Florida. Hopefully South Florida one day, and I can have a few more tropical plants, but all my tropical stuff grows pretty good here in Kissimmee. So just so that you kind of know the climate that I'm using, we don't have much of a winter. We have a few cold days a year. It does get cool at night, 60s lately. Like I said, in the winter when it's really cold, maybe February, January-ish, we could get in the 40s. But if it's a really cold night and they say there might be a frost, which doesn't really happen that often, but if it does, I definitely bring my stuff inside. I bring all my plants inside. I have had more success growing in pots than growing in the ground. I feel like we have sandy soil. The soil's not really great here. It kind of sucks. So I have a little bit more control when I plant in pots, and of course if it's going to get cold I can bring them inside, so I like that. My papaya over there, hello. With my papaya, I know that you're not supposed to water too much. Sometimes I water every day and then sometimes I skip a few days, but my pot has holes in it so the water can run out and it doesn't just sit in there. Make sure whatever you use, it's got some holes, it's got some drainage in the bottom. If you are going to plant in the ground, make sure you plant a little bit up like on a hill, somewhere where it can drain so that it just doesn't become all soggy and mush in the soil, because it can get root rot. But I had another papaya that I planted in the ground that I got from a nursery, and it died in a couple of weeks. I don't know and it definitely wasn't planted up on a hill or anything. And I didn't water it that much, so I'm thinking maybe that's what happened, or maybe it just wasn't that healthy to begin with. But also with papaya, they get cold stress about 45 degrees. So if you live in a cold climate, like I said, make sure you start indoors. I start most of my plants every year. I kind of do this every year. I start new stuff in January in pots, and I keep them inside next to my sliding glass door so that they get sun every day. I just put them in the front, and they grow. They grow pretty good with just that amount of sun that comes into the front there. I do water every day when it's new, when I'm growing something in soil, not when I'm growing it in a thing of water. But with papayas, new papayas, if you want them to germinate, you do want to water every day. But once they're like that big, they start to get pretty big and stuff like that. Make sure you skip a few days. Don't overdo it. But you can't dry them out either. So it's a good balance. Make sure that your soil is not super, super dry. You just have to kind of look and pay attention. Look at how your plant's doing. Does it look sick, you know, you kind of have to troubleshoot. That's how I learned. If it doesn't look good and you're watering quite a bit, back off a little bit. Or if you're probably not watering enough and it doesn't look good, then water a little bit more. So I don't use any fertilizers or pesticides or anything like that with my plants. I've been trying to do it natural. Like I said, I've tried the vinegar trick. I'm trying to read up and find some other things. I had the powdery mildew problem with that guy over there over the winter. I mean, our winter is probably like spring for other people. But what our winter was, there was a lot of powdery mildew on him. I did cut all the leaves off at one point, and all the leaves came back and started over, and there was still some powdery mildew that came back. And now that the season's changed, it's kind of just gone. I just kind of left it because it wasn't really doing anything to hurt the plant. It wasn't looking dead or drying up or anything like that. So I just kind of left it after that. The papayas don't need to be pruned unless you see these dead leaves. I'll probably prune them off if they start to fall, but otherwise you don't need to prune them like other trees, like citrus and things like that. What else do you want to know about papayas? As far as fertilizing goes, I have a book. It says you're supposed to use stuff that's rich in nitrogen, maybe once every few months. I haven't done it. I might try it. I don't know. I'll let you know. It's doing pretty good the way it is right now. I mean, you use fertilizer, it'll get bigger faster, but I'm trying to do it the natural way, so we'll see what happens. Any other questions you guys have, just post at the bottom, and if you like it, give a thumbs up.